How's it going, everybody? We are back here, brand new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Chris.
Happy New Year.
Find ourselves here in our hometown. I was floating around the Facey Bookies, kind of figuring out what we were going to do for the new year and who we were going to talk to. And I happened to see one of my favorite human beings has a brand new album coming out.
Well, thank you.
I can't. So we'll get into. I want to talk about a bunch of stuff, but let's get the album stuff out right away. The little bit that I've seen, the couple of little promo things that you've put up. You sound amazing as always.
Thank you. Yay.
Tell me about the album.
So the album's called Heirloom. It's coming out on February 29. It's kind of a rare day. And I picked that because it's kind of rare that I put out music in general. It has been 4 years since I've put out anything.
Nice.
And it's actually my biggest production to date. There's 14 musicians who played on it, and it's 11 songs. So the most people and the most songs that I've ever had on an album. And it's basically like a small orchestra on this album. There's horns on every song, and some of them also have strings. So it's a really full sound. I've never had instrumentation like that on recording before. And it's actually also my first time playing electric guitar on an album of mine.
Wait, you didn't play electric guitar on the last one?
No, I didn't.
No, you started picking up after that.
That's right.
That's right.
I did that one with Little Sway. I did with an acoustic, a Martin, and then I switched over to guitar or to electric guitar. And those songs translated really well, but they were written originally on acoustic. So there is a difference when you're writing something for electric versus writing
100%.
Something for acoustic. Yeah.
Even just the feel of the guitar itself changes the way you're sort of writing and playing.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because there's like organic noises that your hands make on the strings that are really different between the two. Yeah.
And just like even just the physicality of how you have to play an acoustic guitar versus like an electric guitar, you can just barely touch it. And all the sounds come through.
Absolutely.
And you got to kind of strangle an electric guitar or an acoustic sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot more like force you need to exert to change your dynamic. Yeah.
Do you? Because actually, one of the things that has really impressed me seeing you play live is just how gentle you are on the guitar. Like you're like just very like almost barely touching it, but still get this incredible tone out of it. Where did all that come from? Because if I know you were just saying you just picked up electric guitar. So
yeah. Well, when I was playing acoustic, I did a lot of like a finger picking style, and you know that really requires a good amount of gentleness. So I feel like maybe that's where some of that's coming from. The guitar I play, the Jaguar, it has a really nice mellow tone anyway. So I feel like that's partly just the guitar's doing that's making it sound that way.
No.
But but I also am just like a really gentle player. Like I've never broken a string on an electric.
Never?
Never in my life.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, because it's this tenderness you have with the guitar. Like it's as I'm watching you play, it's out of all of the things going on stage with you that you can look at. One of the things that really caught my attention very, very early on is just how tender you are with a guitar, and it's not timid. It's just gentle.
Yeah.
Is that intentional with you?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like I have like a wild side that I'm taming or something. Like, it's just, I think it's just instinctual. Like, and a lot of the music that I like is really gentle, and a lot of the guitarists that I like have this mellow, easy gentleness to them. So I guess I've never really thought about it. I think it's just what comes naturally.
Okay, makes sense to me. I mean, we could talk about the technical stuff of music all day long. There's more important things that have been going on in your life since the last time we sat down.
It's been a while.
Somebody became a mom.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Talk to me about all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Where are we at now? Because she's like almost a year old or just over a year old?
Over a year old. She's 19 months now, so a little over a year and a half. So this was her second Christmas that just passed.
How was that?
She understands it a bit more now.
Okay.
Because, you know, when she was 7 months old before, it's just super overwhelming. Like, none of it makes any sense, and your whole routine is askew, and everyone wants to see the baby, and it's so exhausting. So
kind of over that though now. By the time we were hitting almost 2, right?
Yeah. Like now, I mean, everyone still wants to spoil her because she's the first grandchild on both sides of our families.
Okay.
So and there's also 6 grandparents because Mike's parents are divorced. So it's just
right.
like a lot of people who really want to spoil her. So we're happy to kind of say she's
good. You guys have family all over the place too, right?
Yeah. Well,
my
family's out east. Mm-hmm. So I haven't actually been back since 2017. So
oh, really?
It's been a while. Yeah, since I got pregnant, which I think was 2017. Yeah. So it's been a while, but we really want to get back. And, you know, every time I put out an album, I like to go to Halifax and do a release show, but I haven't really put the wheels in motion for that yet. Maybe this summer would be a good time to visit.
There you go.
And make it a tourcation kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go.
So.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. But no, it's incredible. So talk to me about just the new experience of parenting for you? Because I mean, it's not brand new now, so it's not shocking to you.
Yeah.
But how has it been sort of incorporating into your life and as a musician and putting all of that stuff together?
I saw a great cartoon recently, and it's a whole bunch of men and women in business suits on a racetrack, and they're all getting ready to start the races. And in front of all the women, there's like washing machines and like an ironing board, and there's nothing in front of the men. And I was like, okay, I kind of feel that a little bit. Like there's so many like domestic things that I have to do before I leave the house to do a gig. It's like I have to make sure that I've got all the food ready for her, and I've got to have like, it's just a whole other level of stuff I need to get done. And you have a smaller window of opportunity in which to do it because, especially at the age she is now, she only naps once, and it's about an hour and a half in the day. So that's my window to get stuff done. Is I have to cram a whole day's worth of work into an hour and a half, and then maybe after she goes to bed, if I still have energy, I can get something done. But that's kind of a crapshoot. By 8 p.m., I could be just zonked. So I definitely am trying to learn how to manage my energy and my time better.
It's a fun balance, right?
Yeah, but then again, like as a self-employed independent musician, I mean, I'm not working the same amount of hours as like a regular working mom who goes to an office 9 to 5, you know? So I do have a lot of luxury in that I can go to bed late. I can kind of, if she'll let me, sleep in. Like I'm not in a great rush to get out the front door in the morning, and she can stay home with us and not have to go to daycare. So we have a lot of one-on-one time, and you know, we're singing music and reading stories and playing together all day. So I feel like she's like advancing in some other arenas faster than she might if she were in daycare.
Okay.
Like she's very verbal. She knows a lot of words and likes to sing along with us, which
That
is
makes
really
sense.
cool.
Yeah.
But just like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, like it just every time she like actually sings one of the words right, I'm just like, this is super cool. You know, she's really little. So everything she does is just so exciting, and I feel like the first parent ever because I'm just so in love with her, and I'm like, I'm not ready. I should have more kids eventually. Like I want to have 2, but I'm not ready to like share my like attention with another one.
I totally get it. I totally get it. When we had my oldest, and then when we found out that Kathy was pregnant for my youngest, my initial reaction was like, I don't know that there's another piece of me to give away
Yeah.
to that. Once you find out that's not how
Everyone,
it works
yeah,
at all.
just says that, you know, that you can always make more room for love, you know?
But it's not even that. It's not even that. You sort of, you think about it like, okay, you have to divide and you do. You have to divide your attention. Sometimes you have to spend time with one and the other, but the love part of it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's weird. It's weird, and they're different human beings, and you learn to interact with them different ways and stuff. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to like wrap my mind around what it's going to be like to have a toddler and a baby, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I know it's going to be the kind of thing where like when she was born, I had this feeling of like, oh God, why did I wait so long to meet her? Like I felt like
okay.
I felt like it was good that I waited until I was mature and like financially stable and like just about to get into a house, although we didn't quite have one yet. But it seemed like we had everything in order, like we planned to have her, and it was smart to wait. But yeah, but I still had that feeling after of like, I've already lived this many years. It would have been nice to have had more of them with her. And I have a feeling that when the next one comes, hopefully I'll feel the same way about like, oh, I wish you would have come along sooner too.
Right.
I hope.
It's funny. It's because it changes everything, right? Did it change your music?
I haven't really done as much writing, so I can't say yet, although I am slowly cooking up some plans to do like a kids album. So in that way, it's changed things.
Right.
But it hasn't come to fruition yet because I've just been so busy working on Heirloom that I didn't want to get ahead of myself and work on another one before I'm done this one.
It's funny, and I don't want to jump ahead because obviously it's an idea, not a project at this point. But talk to me a little bit about that. The idea of a kids album, is that just from being around, having to deal with kids and having kids, or is there something else with that? Because the reason I ask is I've never really talked to musicians who have made that transition, but I've heard stories from authors that had started their writing path down one way and then ended up writing children's books. And in the literary world, children's books are kind of like the also ran, right? And I've heard stories about sort of the transition and the way you have to think about how you deal with stuff that way. And I always find it fascinating because despite the fact that people outside of it look at it as like, I think there's a different way you have to think when you write for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're not going to understand. You can't just use the same language that you use in songs that are made for adults. I don't know. But like, I guess I don't know how to describe it, but I think that I'm looking forward to this because I have fallen in love with an artist who does jazz, like, adult contemporary music. And she also made this really great album for kids. And it's so whimsical and beautiful. And I, as an adult, don't find it childish in the slightest. I think it's really beautiful and relaxing. And it's like a really small jazz ensemble sound of like piano and bass and acoustic guitar and her, kind of light, easy voice throughout. And I immediately was like, I want to do something like this. And,
Who's the artist?
her name is Diana Panton.
Okay.
And she is from somewhere in southwestern Ontario. I can't remember exactly where, but yeah, so she is a local-ish girl.
All right.
And so I guess that's kind of where I got the idea, was from listening to her.
It's funny because as you're talking about it, what I sort of immediately snapped to was Sesame Street.
Oh, really?
Like growing up with Sesame Street, music was so integral to that show. I'm sure it still is. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Same.
For a while.
Yeah.
but like, it's funny that you talk about writing music that isn't childish for children. There's like there's a group of people like in the 70s coming through, like Jim Henson and all of those folks who thought about kids as like young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And like wanted to present them adult ideas in childish ways rather than you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or childlike ways.
Maybe,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of coming at it from the same vibe?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a variety of songs that I've just kind of been hatching ideas for, and some of them are just more like lighthearted and whimsical and just fun. But some of them too, I was trying to distill like big concepts into songs that can make them more accessible, like trying to explain, that we need to take care of our planet, things like that. Like that's going to be really important for this generation to know. And things like I was working on a song that I was inspired to write because when we first moved into our house, we didn't have any like lamp in her bedroom. So it was very dark when I'd go in there in the night to try and find her when she'd be calling out to me. Okay. And I started thinking, I can always find you in the dark. Like I can find my way to you. And there are so many ways that you can take that concept and mature it and age it through the song and still make it something that's really beautiful that a child can enjoy, but that like when the parents hear it, it'll hit them in the feels kind of thing.
Right. No, that's great. No, that's great. I love the concept. That's you keep that to yourself. Oh, this is
sorry.
Right now, but no, I love that idea. Is that how you spend your sort of mental process with music? Is because I like that you have this story behind that concept. It's like, okay, I want to take this piece and bring it together and turn it into this thing. Is that how you approach music? Because you do all kinds of songwriting.
Yeah, and it's changed a lot over the years. Now I do have this approach where I try and have a rubric of what I want to say in a song before I get to work on the music. Mm-hmm. I'll often do the lyrics first now. Whereas it used to be for years I would just sit down with the guitar and whatever happened. Like it would usually be lyrics and music at the same time.
Right.
And I would just work through the song one line at a time until, I get to the end of the chorus, and then I can say, now I've got my verse and my chorus. I could take a break and come back to this because a lot of the song is already done. At that point, you're just adding more lyrics and a bridge, and how do you want to wrap it up? And I kept hitting the problem of losing my train of thought or losing my energy and not being able to finish reaching the end of that first chorus.
Doesn't feel like it flows anymore. Right?
Yeah. And trying to pick it up again like a week or two later, like maybe you're not in the same headspace and you're like, what was I even trying to say with this song? Like it's gone now. So I didn't write a lot of songs for a period of a couple years because I was having this problem with my workflow, like not being able to get anywhere. And then in 2016, I started my custom love song sideline that I do.
Such a great idea. It's my favorite concept in music. It really is.
Thank you.
It really is. So for those of you that didn't hear our first interview 2 years ago, explain what that is.
Yeah, so it started out as a Valentine's Day idea where I would write custom love songs for people to give to their loved ones. So they fill out a questionnaire for me and tells me all about this person. And then I write and record an original custom love song just for them. And they get it digitally and on CD. And so I've done a lot. I've done about 70 of them now for weddings and anniversaries and birthdays and graduations and all holidays you can think of. And doing that has kept my songwriting skills sharp because when I started doing it, that was after my period of 2 years of only having written a song or two, and really kick-started my songwriting and kept my skills sharp. And
what I love about that idea the most is it seems like the professional and thoughtful version of this other thing that used to exist well before either one of our times. And I can't remember exactly what they're called, but you used to be able to, in a magazine, there would be an ad that's saying, do you want to be a songwriter? Send in your poetry.
What?
Okay.
That's cool.
And you would, so you would send in your poetry, and inevitably you would get a letter back saying, this is amazing. We can definitely get you a recording contract.
Oh, wow.
Send this over to us. Send us your $29.99 or whatever it is. We'll get professional musicians to write music for this, and we'll take your lyrics and we'll have somebody sing them, and we'll send you back this record.
Oh.
Okay? Well, inevitably, what you would get from this, because it's just a money scam. What it would be some studio with a bunch of house musicians just wheeling in. Okay, they would not take. There would never be a second take. There would never be. It would just be, okay, guys, we're in here. All right, this is a love song. Sing this, and it would just be whatever garbage lyric would be thrown out. And these are collector's items now. There's people that go out and collect these records that can still be found.
Wow.
But some of them. I'll try to find links. Pendulec talks about this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's how I found out about it. But there's links to some of these songs. But the beauty of them is that because they're written by people who aren't writers, who, like, a lot of them are just about Jesus, right? Like, it's a lot of people from the deep south, like, writing their songs to God or country or whatever.
All right.
But every once in a while, you will find these, like, accidental gems. Just there's nobody writing it, like, nobody writing the music cares. Right? They don't care what the music is.
Stakes are low.
The people that are writing the lyrics aren't heavily invested, right?
Right.
This is the one thing that they're doing. Sometimes, it's about loved ones or somebody that dies or whatever, so like they're emotionally invested, but it's not like they can polish.
Yeah.
But they do this. But long-winded. What I love about your project is it's all of that same idea of, like, take that passion and energy that you have and hand it to a professional, only you actually give a shit.
Yeah, I try to make it as good as I can, that if it were to become public, I wouldn't be humiliated,
And you do a fine job, because I've seen some of the ones
Thank
that you post up, and I think it's a great idea. And actually, for those of you who are watching this, Valentine's Day is coming up. Are you doing it again this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably won't be able to take on as many as I did originally, because
Tell the story again, because it started as an idea that you thought you were going to do one or two, and you ended up doing like a ridiculous amount.
Yeah,
right?
I thought no one was going to order it, and I thought maybe I'd get like one, and then I'd be able to like buy groceries or something, because we were really broke. Winter can be a hard time of year for musicians. You can't tour reliably because the weather is bad, and everyone's all spent out from Christmas, so there's not really a lot of like good private or corporate, good paying gigs to get locally. So we were in a slump, and I was trying to find something, and I thought, no one's going to do this, maybe one person. And then it took off, and I did 12 songs in 11 days, writing and recording 12 songs. So that was like the most productive week and a half of my life as a musician up to that point. And CBC covered it, and AM 580 covered it, and or AM 800, sorry, and a bunch of other places. And so I got all these emails from people all over the country who wanted a custom song, and I decided, well, I'm not going to do this just for Valentine's Day. I need the money year round. So I've just kept it going ever since. And I actually did a TEDx talk about it in 2017.
Where was that at?
That was Chatham, Kent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went really well.
Talk to me about the
gosh.
TEDx experience. Is it as rigid as the official TED stuff?
I doubt it, although I treated it as though it were.
Right.
I know that when you're doing an actual TED talk, like, you have to submit your talk well in advance, like
down
word for
to
word.
the second.
Yes, it's very precise, and you need to be able to recite. I've heard that a rule generally is you need to be able to recite it while doing something totally different, like something that's really mentally absorbing, and still be able to recite your speech word for word. So I took that to heart, and I worked on my speech. I would do it like 3-4 times a day, every day for like a month before. And it was great. Like, I still feel like I literally just regurgitated a phrase from that talk like a moment ago. Like, and I still do that every time I talk about it. Like, yeah, it's in there for good now. And which is funny, because I was so nervous beforehand.
How did that come about?
It was supposed to just be a playing opportunity. I was just supposed to go and play a little bit of music.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted to know what songs I was going to play. And I was kind of wondering why they wanted to know. And they were saying, well, we need to make sure that you have the copyright, or you have permission to use them, because they're going to be filmed and put on the website. And I thought, well, if you're filming it and putting it on a website, how about I just do a talk? Like, if you're going to use all the same, infrastructure to present it, I might as well make it, informative. And so I made it a mix of a talk and some songs. So I got to play 2 songs and do a speech of like 10 minutes around those 2 songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still get feedback from it? Because those things live on the web forever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, every now and then I'll get someone saying, I found you from your TED Talk. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, talk to me. You put up a post yesterday, day before, maybe, about a co-op thing that's going on over at your place. Tell me about this because I'm so excited. I want to learn more.
Okay, yeah. So it's called the Soul City Music Co-op, and it's like a musicians cooperative that kind of operates a bit like a label in the sort of roster familial aspect of associating yourself with other acts.
And so far, it's unfortunate that it's so full of hacks that I'm seeing.
Oh, yes, the worst. No, we're super lucky that we just have all these like really talented friends that we've been working with a lot lately and doing a lot of recordings with, and a lot of them are playing in the Family Soul. That's my husband's band. And so we've just been working with all these people and helping them with their projects. And it just seemed like, well, why don't we make this kind of official? And that way, if someone likes one of us, maybe they'll discover some of the other acts on the roster. And there's no percentage of anyone's music belongs to anyone except them. There's no money being exchanged. Whatever money that we make from this is just the benefits of association and sharing our resources. And people are doing this anyway. They're just not calling it anything. It's just like a group of musicians that works together and collaborates.
It's very much, I think, the only way this industry is going to survive. That's why I loved so much when I saw the post, because I'm paraphrasing obviously, but you just covered it. It was the idea that, like, look, this is a collective and a label, but just so we're clear, nobody's taking anything.
Yeah.
If you want to be part of this, come contribute and then walk away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the most intimidating thing about being approached by a label is, what do they want from me and when do I get it back? Like, what am I going to get, and is it reliable, or is it just like a dubious claim that maybe we can get you some more exposure in exchange for this money? That, a lot of the time they're offering to do stuff that you could do yourself. Like there's a lot of do-it-yourself aspects of being a musician now that someone else might want to take the reins for, but they're taking your money for it. So if you can get away with doing it yourself and making it look good, like, it's not all that challenging if you're willing to invest a little time to research, like, how does social media work? Like, what are the best kinds of posts? How does the algorithm work? And, what should I think about when I'm designing my own posters or whatever? Like, there's a lot to learn, but there's a lot of info too.
It's funny too, because it's like, we live in this world where you are encouraged to be everything. And for some people, you can. I mean, I know you do it. I do it. Running around trying to be all of it.
Yeah.
But there's also this other piece of me that goes, like, with a collective, like with what you're talking about, something like that is the best scenario, because I'm never going to be able to be everything.
Yeah.
I can do a little bit of everything. I don't do anything amazingly well. But if you get 5 people where each one of them has something that just individually is amazing at whatever it is they do, and they're all working together, I think that's how you make magic out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also a point where you have to say, like, I cannot do this myself. Like, I don't have this ability. It's not going to look professional. It's not going to represent me well. Yeah, or you don't have the time to do it. Like, I actually wanted to record my album all by myself. Like, I thought I was going to produce it and engineer it and arrange all of it. And I really quickly realized, like, it's not going to be very good if I do all of that, because I have very little experience. And some people are just geniuses and they manage to do really great things out of the gate. But I was like, no, I've got a lot of really great, talented friends around me. I should just pull on my resources, and that's going to make this work and sound good.
I want to know about you as a kid. I know we talked about this a little bit when we first sat down, but remind me. Tell me about you in school.
Like when?
I don't know. I'm just I think what I'm really getting at is, you seem so astute, for a lack of better word. Like you're very studious. Like, you're somebody who's very conscientious about the way they move through life, the way they move through their career. And I know some of that may be just complete facade, because at some point we're all banging our heads against walls.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But you seem to be someone that from a very early age was able to sort of just, like, be calm, see what's happening around them, and just sort of, like, gauge what you're doing in the world. Is that an accurate assessment of how you see yourself?
I don't know, because sometimes I feel so disconnected from, like, who I was as a kid that I don't have any recollection of, like, how I went through my days.
Right.
But I know that I was always kind of nerdy. Like, I was always wanting to have the top mark in the class. So, like, that studious nature is, like, ingrained. Like, I've been this way a long time.
Mom and dad?
I don't know. I mean, maybe my parents are just, like, great and encouraged me, and probably would have punished me if I did bad. Like, they cared about how I performed in school, so
It's
I think
important.
that motivated me. I really don't know where I got that, just wanting to like always be the top of the class. Like, I guess maybe it's from being like the youngest in the family, that like you're trying to like, I don't know, everything is a contest, or you're always
Right.
trying to like be in front
How
somehow.
many siblings?
I just have one older brother.
Okay.
But yeah, I still feel like that creates a filter to your life that you might not really realize until you're older and looking back on it.
It's funny because I have older siblings, but I grew up as an only child, so I
Oh,
basically
wow.
I've got like all the only child syndrome
Oh,
stuff. So when
wow.
people talk about siblings, it's like I've got kids. I've got I have 2 kids, so I'm raising kids who have siblings, but I have no context.
Yeah.
Like when I'm watching them grow up, like it's like, well, just fucking deal with it. Quit being an asshole.
Get along, yeah.
Like,
I hear ya. Yeah, no, and my brother and I were like, we were rivals. Like, we didn't really get along all that well growing up. But I don't know. I guess like we've not lived together in 13 years since we've lived in like the same locale, and now he's in the States, so he's really far.
right.
And now we get along great. So
It's
distance
amazing
makes the
how
heart
that
grow fonder.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so enough about it. It's just it occurred to me that I wanted to see if I was getting that assessment, because I put in this place where I don't know, I'm fascinated by strong women. Strong women really intrigue me, and not like, whatever. Strong women really intrigue me in that I've always been around strong women my entire life. So whenever I see some, and also it's because I'm a bit of a like I said, I bang my head against more walls than I understand exactly what is happening. I'm more of a bash through shit to kind of make it work, right?
Right.
So it always fascinates me when I see, especially a combination when you kind of have the whole package. It's not like you're unattractive. It's not like you're really not talented, and it's not like you're an idiot. And so when you put that together, it's like I become fascinated about how you see yourself in the world, because it can be a tough place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, as soon as you started to say that, I was thinking about how I lost friends because of those things when I was in high school. Like, as soon as I started playing music, I started when I was 15 at like a variety show that was during school hours. So you paid $2, you got to go get out of class. So everyone went. And I played, I don't know if that was when I played Hallelujah, but I was really into that song, the Leonard Cohen song, but like the Jeff Buckley version that has a really beautiful long guitar intro, and it was super impressive. And I did that in a song that I wrote, and then I lost a bunch of friends because they told me in later years that they had been just like jealous, I guess. But it kind of sucked.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that experience. I'm not trying to bring up. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it. It's just
Yeah.
weird. I just hope that they don't watch this and feel weird or bad or strange that I'm even mentioning it.
But that's an actual thing that happens, right? So even maybe not for them, but for anybody else who happens to be sort of like walking through that world, because it's funny that you bring it up like that, because one of the things that you do notice, we're in an industry where we're professional attention seekers. Even people like you who don't really seem to be much of an attention
It's
seeker,
still part of the job,
right?
yeah.
So it's amazing to me how much people don't understand that their reaction to that is important.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing to me that the more successful you get at certain things, the more certain people will fall off.
Yeah.
And that's I don't even know if I have a point on this. It's very unfortunate.
It is. Yeah, I don't feel like I've changed or that it's changed me. I try and like, I don't have these great goals of wanting to be rich and famous and having a mansion and having professional assistants and people who do my groceries for me. Like, I like the level I'm at now. I like that I've got a house and I've got a car and I've got a family that I can feed, and that's really all that I've ever wanted to have as a musician. So I think that probably that also helps keep me the same person through the years.
It's funny because you hear that phrase. I'm a guy that pays attention to interviews with celebrities, right?
Yeah.
But you hear that phrase from, Vanilla Ice and, major names. And,
Wow.
all I ever really wanted to do was pay my bills. And it's easy when you're sitting back and watching somebody who's really, really made it. It's easy to sit back and watch them say that and go, yeah, all right.
Right.
But I know for a fact, people like you and me,
Yeah.
making a living every day the same way people go to a factory every day.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress kind of thing, and being able to pay your bills is a big deal. Like, that's
huge.
Celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. It took me like 10 years or more to get to that point, So
It's funny, Jeff Burrows was on here at the end of last year, and one of the things that he said in there, when he said it to me as we were talking, I don't know if it shows on camera, but inside my jaw dropped. And he said I think he said the first 5 years, or up until the second album, he was making negative $500 a week.
Oh,
Into the second album.
That's hard to keep that up. You know, I mean, a lot of like new business owners have that where you're going to, be losing a lot of money for a long time. And it's hard to keep that up. Like you have to have a certain amount of like wealth or privilege to allow you to like sustain that long enough to finally start making money.
He gives all the credit in his world to his wife, who was working
That's
the
amazing.
whole time. Right?
Yeah, there's got to be someone with a stable job.
Yeah, 100%. And which is funny because you don't have that.
No. Yeah, no. Mike, my husband, is also a musician, so we're both just like two people flying by the seat of our pants all the time. And I'm always like prepared to get a job if I have to. Like I've always had that mindset of like, if I have to do this to get by, I will. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to like start selling all my stuff so that I can keep doing what I'm like. I will not be delusional. Like I have to keep the roof over my head. I think that I get from my parents.
Yeah.
Because I think they would have preferred had I gone to university when I graduated, because just moving to Halifax and playing shows for free wasn't really, I don't know how you'd feel about your child doing that and just kind of hoping that everything works out and that they're okay and that they have enough food to eat. Like, I know my mom was always really like, do you have money for groceries? Like, do you have like vegetables? Like, take care of yourself.
And the best part of it is all the times you said yes.
Yeah, and probably didn't mean it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting path that we choose.
Yeah.
It's talk to me about your background when it comes to like understanding work. Do you come from a family of like blue collar, go to work every day? So then talk to me about how you figured, because the mindset of going to a job every day is different than the mindset of trying to build a business.
Yeah.
And talk to me about your process of sort of like learning the difference.
Well, I always, from the time that I moved out when I was 18, I had a job. I supported myself financially. I worked at a call center for 9 months, which really sucked and is why I hate talking on the phone to this day. I hate it. And I felt a lot of guilt actually when I finally started making enough money to not have a job anymore, because I just felt I was so used to filling the day with, first it had been school and then it had been work, and then I went back to school again. I took a music business course in Halifax, and then I was working another day job for another 4 years when I moved to Windsor. And when I finally realized that I was making more money playing a gig a week than I was going to work all week, well, how can I keep going to work all week and losing out on opportunities to play? Like, it makes so much more sense to just play music. But then you'd wake up in the morning and be like, oh my God, I don't have to catch a bus right now. What am I doing with my life? And I felt so guilty for the longest time, because so many people have to get up and go and work a job that they hate all day, like my dad did for 30 years. And I knew I didn't want to do that, but I didn't know what I would want to do if it wasn't music. Like,
it's funny you don't, because you end up getting this chunk of time that you don't know how to handle.
Yeah. You feel guilty for having.
Right? How do you handle that? I mean, now you handle it because there's mom duties.
Yeah. I'm used to that, but I also just feel like I'm used to being a musician all day. And there are a lot of people in this new age that get to do what they want and do it for 3-4 hours a day, and that pays their way through life. I mean, maybe you don't have the most lofty financial ambitions with that kind of a lifestyle, but it's kind of increasingly the lifestyle for millennials, that we don't have, really reliable jobs. There's no promise of like a great, job for the rest of your life when you get out of university anymore. So a lot of us are making our own businesses and are getting used to this really strange schedule of kind of waking up and making your own map for the day.
I just think it's so interesting because like I grew up in an era when and this is something that I'm only just even starting to absorb, right? So I came up in the 90s, which is kind of like the last blast that the everything to do with music is pop sensation. Like even the alternative stuff was sensationalized, right? And now it's sort of, all of that still exists. Like, obviously, you can turn on a radio and listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
But the more and more I explore, the more and more I find that I think the way music and entertainment works today is exactly how you're talking about it. More out of just your basement. I think there's more interesting things happening out of people's bedrooms right now than there is coming out of at like major studios.
Yeah, I mean, I am not very tapped into what's going on with Top 40, but it always seems like you're losing a lot of your humanity when you have like 7 different writers on a song. Like, how do you all agree to make the same thing? Like, how do you make something that's like rich and meaningful and applies to the human experience if you're all only just like writing like 5 words each and the whole song is like 20 words?
Let me devil's advocate that on a little bit, because I think where the you're right. There's some stuff where it's just like, all right, we're throwing names on shit, and okay, we're gonna get 50 people in a room. But I think what happens is, and it's not like I'm in these rooms, I'm guessing.
Right.
I think what happens is a lot like you're talking about. You get these collectives, these groups of people that work together, and they're all friends and they're all doing things. And one of them blows up, or 2 of them happen to blow up, or whatever. And along that route, we have friends.
Yeah.
And all of those friends have been doing the same shit that I've been doing.
Okay.
And mine popped up along too. So come sit in this room. I'm going to write a song.
Really, I like that.
And now you're going to get a check too.
No, I get it. It's the lift as you grow thing. It's just at a much higher level.
It really is. Yeah. But it's funny because I think that happens. And then when that happens, you get this like group of people that kind of pop up, and then everybody outside of that group of people goes, well, how come I can't be in?
Yeah.
It's because you weren't there when it started.
Right, yeah.
Just like when your thing blows up, all of the people that didn't jump on board right now.
Well, I mean, everyone...
It's not that you're going to turn people down, but like it's going to be harder and harder and harder to access that, right?
Yeah, well, it's also just kind of playing on that whole, like, everyone feels... We're all putting like our best face on social media, and you feel kind of like jealous when you see other people doing really great stuff, and you're like, I wish that was me. And
right.
It's just kind of.
Oh, I will say this publicly as part of my penance. When the Leighton Bain project came up last year, that is the most the Wards of Windsor project. When it popped up, I saw it, and my first reaction was fuck.
Because you wanted it to be your idea, or you wanted to be on it?
All of it.
All of it.
I wish it was me that thought of it. I wish that it was me that got a phone call to be part of it.
Right.
You know, and then ultimately I just was happy to be a fan and listen to it all. But
that was
and congratulations to all of you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go find it. It's the Wards of Windsor. It's an amazing project. Are you guys?
I'm not. Mike was representing the downtown ward,
right.
And I was invited to collaborate with him on that song. It just happened that he was working on it around the time that Adela was born. So he wrote the second verse for me to sing, but then I just never got around to it.
Gotcha.
So if you hear the song, like the second verse is supposed to be my perspective, so I'm in it that way, but like technically not at all in it. So I really regret that I didn't get to do that, because it just, the release show that they did 2 shows at Mackenzie Hall. It sounded amazing, and everyone was posting about it the next day and how it was like the greatest show that ever played, or I don't know, and I was like, oh man, I could have been in that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's funny because you're that close to it, you still get to feel that.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'm not an asshole. I'm just like everyone else. No, congratulations to that whole crew, because it was an amazing project.
Yeah,
amazing project. Okay, so I mean, am I missing anything? You got a lot going on.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we talked a lot about the album, the single. Single Hungry Love is the first single that's...
It's out now, right?
It's not. It's going to be out on January the 7th. So depending on when this airs, it may
This will be coming out Monday.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Yeah. So I think that's the 6th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
tomorrow.
If it's currently Monday, then it's coming out tomorrow.
Right.
And then it's going to be everywhere.
Spotify, all the normal places.
Yeah.
Spotify's been good to you, eh?
Yeah.
You're
we can talk about that.
You're one of the few musicians that has a positive perspective on Spotify. Talk to me about that.
So I had a song take off on Spotify. It was unbeknownst to me, although if I had been paying closer attention, I would have noticed it happening. But I had my song Pretty Words added to Your Favorite Coffee House, which is a really popular Spotify curated playlist that already has 1 million subscribers. So if you happen to get a song in a playlist like that, then instantly all those subscribers, when they tune in, are going to hear your song.
Whether they want to or not.
It's in there. So every day I would get like 20,000 plays on my song, and it was in there for about a year. So I got over 11 million plays in a year.
Do you see that? How does that translate to you then?
So everyone distributes their music through, there's so many different distributors that do that now that send it out to Spotify and Apple Music and Google Play and all these places. And then you just got to log in and check your royalties and your royalty statements. It usually takes a couple minutes.
I don't even mean that part of it.
Okay.
I mean when you have that many people listening to your music, Do you see?
What's the impact?
Do you get a build from that? Like, do you get an impact from that, or is what you're getting just the place?
At that point in time, Spotify didn't have their Spotify for Artists thing set up, so I couldn't like create a profile that linked people to my website or my social media.
Okay.
So it really existed in like a bubble where I wasn't seeing like many more subscribers on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook. Like it didn't really affect my social media numbers very much at all. Like every now and then maybe someone would share that they were listening to it on Spotify, but 11 million in one spot only, and then I still just have like 2,000, 3,000 likes or whatever on each other page. So it really didn't translate, unfortunately, into anything else except the royalties. So
Which is
that's significant. It's
Yeah.
0.4 of a cent per stream, so that's nothing if you only have a handful, but 11
once
million
they start
adds up.
crossing,
Yeah. So that was amazing that year that every month I was getting a royalty check of like $2,000 to $3,000. It was bananas. I was like, what do I do with my time? Like I felt like that was when I started writing like grants for all my friends, because I was like, I kind of feel guilty that this is happening, and I want to like put good karma into the universe, because like my way is paid right now. Like I was able to upgrade my laptop and get Ableton Live 9 and start recording myself and make all these like upgrades to like, you know, our gear and whatever. So it was crazy, just crazy that happened. Like blows my mind.
Does that become does it become like a resume piece now?
Yeah.
Like, does that help when it goes to, you know, grant writing processes and all of that?
Yeah, it's a lot of when you're evaluated for grants, or, you know, even if you're like submitting your music to like a label or a prospective manager, they're always super into the numbers. Like it's almost the only thing that they care about is what are your numbers. So to be able to say like 11 million is huge.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, it didn't translate to anything else. Like it's not like I have a million YouTube followers or whatever.
It's so funny because when you're talking about the numbers when it comes to social media,
they're so easy to fake too.
Well, they're so easy to fake. The people who think they know what they mean usually don't. The people who do know what they mean, you usually don't qualify.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the people who think certain numbers are really impressive are only impressed by a big number. They really don't know what it means. And the people who do understand what that big number is are kind of going like, yeah, okay, you and 1,700 other people.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a weird sort of, especially when like, again, we're in the attention-seeking business, and the way you gauge attention these days is by all of these stupid numbers that if you pay attention to at all, you start to learn how meaningless they are.
Yeah.
So you start to, maybe this is just me, start to get into this mental space where it's like, I'm chasing these things that even I know are imaginary.
Yeah.
And you start to ask yourself, what is motivating me to go after certain things?
Yeah.
Did you have that experience as well, or is that just my insanity?
I don't know. I mean, I can't help but care about those numbers, but at the same time I have to remind myself that that's secondary to caring about my art, and that's the reason why, you know, I have these numbers. It's not like I'm not existing on Instagram just because I want to have all the followers. It's because like I'm trying to share my music. Like that's what I should be doing here, is just focusing on making great stuff, great music and videos and, you know, blog posts, like whatever I can that's like interesting and valuable, and hope that, you know, that the numbers reflect that, you know.
How you doing?
So far so good.
Sounds good to me. Crissi, it's always such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Hey, you come on anytime. Let me know. It better not be 4 years till we hear from
No.
you.
No.
All right. All right, everybody. You know what to do. We got links below for all this stuff for Crissi and all of her music and all the new stuff coming out. And, of course, do the like, the subscribe, and the share thing. See you next time.
Bye.